live in a world where we have to grow up. People in this business fall by the wayside because we forget that all of us ultimately answer to people.
The internet is on fire after Stephen A. Smith dropped some heavy hints about why his longtime First Take co-host Molly Qerim suddenly walked away from ESPN after nearly 20 years at the network. And let me tell you, the details that are surfacing suggest the situation far more complicated than anyone initially imagined. Let's break it all down. This was the shocking exit that nobody saw coming. The sports media world was left completely stunned on September 16, 2025, when one of the most surprising departures in ESPN's history sent shockwaves across the industry. After nearly 2 decades with the company, and a full decade as the trusted moderator of First Take, Molly Qerim announced her abrupt resignation. Fans, colleagues, and even her on-air partner Stephen A. Smith were blindsided. What makes her departure so stunning isn't only the timing, it's the way the entire thing unfolded. Just picture this. On Monday, September 15th, Molly was on air as usual, hosting First Take and moderating debates with the same poise and professionalism that had made her such a vital piece of ESPN's flagship morning show. But by Tuesday morning, she was gone. Not taking a short break, not stepping away for a brief hiatus, but gone completely, cutting ties with the network that had been her professional home for 19 years. The bombshell first dropped when Sports Business Journal reported that Molly was planning to leave ESPN at the end of the year. But what happened immediately after turned an already surprising story into something far more dramatic and mysterious. Instead of sticking with the planned timeline for a year-end departure, Molly took to Instagram and issued a statement that changed everything. She revealed that her exit wasn't happening months down the road. It was effective immediately. Her Instagram post began with the striking words, "The news came out earlier than I intended," immediately signaling to everyone that something had gone wrong behind the scenes. This wasn't the type of carefully choreographed farewell tour that networks usually arrange for longtime stars. This was something else entirely, an immediate resignation that left everyone scrambling to figure out what had really happened. The impact was instant and visceral. When First Take aired the next morning without its familiar host, viewers were met with a startling sight: Stephen A. Smith opening the show solo, visibly emotional as he gave what could only be described as a heartfelt yet cryptic farewell. Normally, fans would be greeted by Molly's warm professionalism. Instead, Stephen told the audience, "Molly announced last night she will be departing from ESPN. She has hosted First Take for 10 years, and she elevated the show with her grace, her expertise, and her unmatched kindness. She has been an enormous part of our success for a decade. Not only did she keep me and others in line, but she did it with dignity, class, and kindness, to say the least." He went on to emphasize how deeply she would be missed, wishing her success in her next projects. "We'll miss her and wish her every blessing for the future. I personally am grateful for her friendship, and I will miss spending every weekday morning with her right by my side." On the surface, it sounded like a touching tribute from a colleague and a friend. But if you listen closely, there were some telling clues. Notice how Stephen highlighted that she had announced last night. That choice of words implied that even he had been caught off guard by how suddenly this had happened. This wasn't a farewell planned weeks in advance. It was something that blindsided even those closest to her professionally. And the real bombshell didn't come until later that same day, when Stephen addressed the situation again on his SiriusXM podcast, The Stephen A. Smith Show. That's where he dropped comments that set the internet on fire with speculation about what really went down at ESPN. He told listeners, "Last night she abruptly resigned as the host of the show. To say that I'm quite sad about it is an understatement. Molly is a friend. Molly is a coworker. Molly is someone I've leaned on many times, just as she has leaned on me." Then he delivered the line that had everyone buzzing. "A lot of times these things happen, and it's just uncomfortable to see. The details, quite frankly, are none of y'all's business. It's not as if I know all the details, it was a contract negotiation that was going on." He then admitted there was more happening than was being revealed publicly, though he insisted it wasn't his place to go into specifics. We all make decisions we believe are in our best interest for whatever reason. That's her story to tell. Do I have an idea? Of course I do. Am I going to share it? No. Because again, that's her story to tell. This is where things get really juicy. Stephen A. Smith was basically telling the audience that he knew more than he was admitting, but that he was choosing to keep quiet. That kind of careful teasing only fueled the fire, leaving fans and media outlets wild with speculation. Perhaps the most important takeaway from his response, though, was how strongly he emphasized the abruptness of her decision. This wasn't a planned farewell or a gradual transition. It was sudden, sharp, and shocking. Even ESPN president of content Burke Magnus confirmed that the timing was completely unexpected. The one thing that was unexpected was the timing of all this, he admitted. She put out a statement because there was a report on it, so it kind of got out of our control once that happened. To fully grasp the weight of this departure, you need to understand what Molly brought to First Take and to ESPN overall. She joined the network back in 2006, first contributing to ESPN's digital and mobile platforms before rising to prominence as the permanent moderator of First Take in 2015. Over that decade, she played a pivotal role in elevating the show's profile and making it one of ESPN's flagship debate programs. The numbers speak for themselves. First Take became ESPN's highest-rated studio show, regularly drawing more than 500,000 viewers per episode and earning recognition as one of Sports Business Journal's 25 best current sports studio shows in 2024. In 2023, the show reached its most-watched year ever, thriving on linear TV while exploding digitally with more than 250 million YouTube views. But Molly's role went far beyond simple moderation. She was often the anchor who kept the show grounded, balancing out Stephen A.'s fiery style with her calm professionalism. She fact-checked in real time, kept debates on track, and infused the show with a perspective and inclusivity that were still rare in the male-dominated world of sports media. Critics and fans alike praised her for elevating female representation at ESPN and within sports talk shows in general. Her journey at the network was remarkable. From covering college football and NFL events to winning an Emmy in 2008 for her work on fantasy football, she built a reputation for handling high-pressure live television with composure. By the time she took the moderator chair, she had developed a skill set that made her indispensable. Her chemistry with Stephen A. Smith became legendary. For 10 years, the two perfected a dynamic where her measured approach balanced his explosive personality. She could challenge him, rein him in, or inject humor into heated moments, all while ensuring the show didn't tip into chaos. Which is exactly why her sudden exit felt like such a blow. There had been no visible warning signs. No reports of dissatisfaction, no whispers of behind-the-scenes drama, no gradual stepping back from the spotlight. In fact, First Take had been thriving, its ratings climbing year after year. One day she was there, the next she was gone, leaving behind only cryptic social posts and Stephen A.'s carefully chosen, but ultimately mysterious, remarks. The aftermath confirmed the severity of the situation. ESPN announced she would no longer appear in any future episodes, effectively fast-tracking her exit months earlier than planned. That abruptness raised serious questions about what was happening internally. After all, this was ESPN's crown jewel debate show, riding high in both ratings and cultural relevance. For the network to suddenly lose one of its central figures without preparation or explanation represented a massive breakdown in its usual approach to talent management. One thing became very clear: this wasn't just about a simple contract dispute or a mutual decision to part ways. Something had broken down at a fundamental level in her negotiations. Whatever happened was serious enough that a consummate professional like Molly Qerim chose to walk away immediately rather than ride out her contract. But as shocking as Molly's abrupt exit was in front of the cameras, what was happening behind them was even more explosive. Because this wasn't just about leaving a show, it was about money, influence, and a negotiation process that completely derailed. Let's talk about the contract wars and the power dynamics at play. To understand what really drove this, you have to look at ESPN's financial landscape. Stephen A. Smith signed a monster extension in 2024, reportedly worth more than $100 million over 5 years, making him one of the highest-paid figures in all of sports media. By comparison, reports suggest Molly was making around $500,000 per year. That's not just a pay gap, it's a salary canyon, a nearly 40-to-1 ratio between two people hosting the same show. According to multiple insiders, that disparity became a flashpoint in her negotiations. But here's where things take an even more interesting turn. Former ESPN insider Marcellus Wiley, who worked at the network from 2007 to 2018 and knew Molly during her rise, has been one of the most vocal about what he believes went down. Wiley explained that Molly's negotiations weren't just about money. She wanted career growth. She wanted her own show. She wanted opportunities that reflected her decade of service and her proven ability on live television. Molly was going through a contract negotiation, and it was not going well, Wiley said. What did Molly want? She wanted to do other things at the network. She wanted to host her own show. She wanted to land on her feet and still be at the worldwide leader, doing her thing. But that wasn't happening. So according to Wiley, ESPN didn't just say no to more money. They rejected virtually every idea she had for advancing her career. That rejection stung even more when you consider what she had accomplished. She had moderated debates through some of the most contentious sports moments of the last decade, from LeBron's team changes to the NFL protest debates, always maintaining control of the conversation and keeping the show productive. Wiley took his theory even further, and this is where things get explosive. He suggested that Stephen A. Smith's influence within ESPN played a crucial role in how Molly's negotiations unfolded. When he signs off on you, you get what you want. But guess what? There's a flip to it too. When he doesn't sign off on you, you don't get what you want. This theory paints Stephen A. Smith as an unofficial kingmaker inside ESPN, with the ability to make or break careers based on whether he backs someone. And in Molly's case, Wiley believes Smith didn't throw his support behind her ambitions. The evidence does line up with that theory. Reports indicate that Stephen A.'s contract extension gave him more influence over casting and programming decisions. There are even documented examples of him having a say in who was hired and fired in roles related to First Take. In industries like entertainment, this isn't unusual. When a star becomes so essential to a network, their power tends to extend far beyond their official role. So if Wiley is correct, Stephen A. used his influence to help some colleagues climb the ladder, but not Molly. And that selective use of power raises serious questions about what criteria he uses to decide who he supports and who he doesn't. The timing of events also supports the idea that something dramatic happened behind the scenes. ESPN executive Burke Magnus confirmed that there had initially been a plan for Molly to step away at the end of the year but transition into new opportunities at the network. But between that agreement and her sudden resignation, something changed dramatically. The original plan, according to insiders, was for Molly to move away from daily First Take duties while branching out into hosting her own shows and taking on bigger assignments across ESPN's programming slate.